armor is a very, very difficult thing to draw in such a way that it is convincing. And you can, it really comes down to having, at the end of the whole chain, a competent craftsman who can actually make it. But I think it looks terrifying.
Plates which enclose the face and give a kind of scaly, almost reptilian look to the character.
The Moria orcs were one of the few things that I had the privilege of designing right from one end to the other. Peter wanted something special for the goblins of Moria, and we drew all kinds of crazy creatures that you could never hope to get anyone inside a suit to play those.
This is an early troll concept. A lot of these sketches are very rough, just to sort of, cut a silhouette, see what Peter thought, see if he reacted nicely to it. And yeah, this is an early one where I had this very sort of forward slung head, and he also has a bit more hair, played a bit more hairily. And yes, and again in the immature sort of design mind that I was at the time, he's got skulls hanging off his belt, something I wouldn't be seen dead doing now probably.
And what we wanted to create were alternative cultures that look like they could come straight out of history, but you're never quite sure where they're from. So we drew from all over the place. There's a lot of Oriental and Japanese influence and some of the elven stuff, but we would hope that it's never so overt that you look at them and go, oh, look, they're Japanese elves. The elves that you've seen in Fellowship of the Ring in the Second Age, which is the prologue sequence, we like to think of them as being at the height of their age. They were the colours that we use in them, the kind of shapes we use in them. They're in the summer or the spring of their time. There's still a spring in their step. Their culture's still extant in Middle Earth.
Bag End is a hobbit mansion to my eyes, and it's the least humble of the hobbit dwellings. It really is the big estate in Hobbiton. And I've never been to England, so my concept of England, because the Englishness of Hobbiton is obviously, the primary element involved, I have a foreigner's vision of England, which is unadulterated by any reality. Bag End is the way I would imagine my ideal, non-existent England.
The wonderful statue of this elven figure kind of cradling the remains of Narsil, I think that's one of the most satisfying design elements in the film. Moria has a huge presence in the film. We spent a lot of time developing the look of it and all the various different parts of it as well. There are the mines and then the more formal great halls like Dwerdelf, and this is just the entrance hall, really. They've just come in through the door which opens out onto the lake, into this huge great lobby, only to find that it's full of the corpses of Durin's folk. This wasn't the final design. There were subsequent drawings which developed the actual look of the architecture, but it has something of the feel that I was looking for. I did lots of drawings of LOTR, partly to pin down a design concept we could all get excited about, and also just to actually create the look of the trees, poised feel, and some of them feel almost like flowers. This is Galadriel's Glade, which was one of my favourite sets in the film. So I did several drawings, including this one, and also made a maquette based very closely. Peter, you really liked the idea of Galadriel emerging through this split in a tree trunk, which I thought was great.